Let's say that we were the owner of a grocery store. In this data, each one of the lines represents a transaction in the grocery store. Each transaction has an item, a category of that item, a date that it took place, the quantity sold, the price, and the sales amount. And sales amount is just quantity times price. As you can see, this is a lot more data than we've been working with earlier in the course. So much data that when we scroll, we actually lose track of what the column headers are. I forget, is this category or is this the item? Well, this is where using Excel's Freeze Panes feature comes in handy. Freezing panes is a feature that locks certain cells in your view so that they're always visible. Let's try it. Let's say I wanted to only freeze the top row of my workbook. To do this, we go to the View tab of your ribbon here, and then go to Freeze Panes, and then Freeze Top Row. When I scroll, we see that Excel has properly frozen the top row of our worksheet, but our column headers are still out of view. I want to freeze my rows such that I can still see my column headers here. Let's try it, but first, let's unfreeze our panes by going to Freeze Panes, Unfreeze Panes, or using the shortcut Alt-W-F-F. Okay, since we want to freeze this row here, let's select the first cell below that row, which is row 5, apples. Then we go to View, Freeze Panes, or use the shortcut Alt-W-F-F. It's the same shortcut as unfreezing panes because you can only have one frozen selection per worksheet in Excel. Now our selection has properly frozen the top row, and we can see that when we scroll. But if you scroll to the right, you'll also notice that our selection has frozen the first column, column A. This is because Freeze Cells freezes everything above and to the left of your selection. This is an important point of the Freeze Panes feature. Since we had this cell highlighted when we used the Freeze Panes feature, everything to the left and above was frozen, which is why column A and rows 1 through 4 were all frozen. However, there may be scenarios where you only want to freeze the rows or you only want to freeze the columns. To do this, you must first highlight the first row or column that you wish to be unfrozen, and then use the Freeze Cells functionality. Let me show you what I mean, but let's first unfreeze all of our panes so we go back to normal. Okay, it looks good. Let's say we wanted to only freeze these first 2 columns of our spreadsheet. To do this, we would select the first column that we wish to be unfrozen, which would be here, column C. Click on the column to select it. Now, if we use the Freeze Panes feature by going to Freeze Panes, we'll notice that the first 2 columns now, columns A and columns B, are frozen. So that's how you freeze columns only. Let's say I only wanted to freeze rows. Let's say, for example, I wanted to freeze rows 1 through 4. To do this, I would first select the first row that I wish to be unfrozen, which would be row 5, and then do the same thing. Go to Freeze Panes, or use the shortcut Alt-W-F-F. Now, Excel has properly frozen my first 4 rows without freezing any of my columns.